It's Jets Patriots week, and we don't have to talk about the losing streak. Can the Jets turn things around and make this a winning streak, though, against New England? We will see. We're going to cover that. Plus, injury news Bryce Huff versus Hassan Reddick, who's in the worst position as far as the teams go. Aaron Rodgers returning to MetLife Stadium. Sauce Gardner catching a little bit of slack after a less dominant game than usual, I guess. A lot to get to here. Thanks for joining us on the Flight Plan Podcast. I'm Tim McMaster, along with the Athletics Jets reporter Zach Rosenblatt. Zach, how you doing, man? You're back from beautiful Nashville.
Yeah, I'm back. I just got done with a cold, and I feel like maybe I'm getting sick again. I'm hoping I'm not, and I'm just allergic to the environment. I'm down in Cherry Hill by my parents, and my allergies act up, and I'm down here. But I will say we were reacting to something that has like distracted me quite a bit because it threw me off a little. We were talking about Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, dropping a Woj bomb,
The
his last Woj
ultimate
bomb,
Woj
the
bomb.
last
The
Woj
final
bomb,
and ultimate Woj
the
bomb.
last one. He's the absolute goat of like breaking news. He's just dominated. I mean, I know Shams and him, that was like a whole battle, but he's the OG. And, and I think people don't know or remember about Woj is that he was like a really, really good writer and columnist before he started just like focusing purely on breaking news for ESPN. Like his columns at Yahoo were always so good. He was a good writer back in the day. NJ guy, he's going to work for St. Bonaventure now, but man, it's gonna be weird not having him breaking NBA news now.
Yeah, it certainly is. You mentioned the sick stuff too, and as people know that have listened to the old version of this, I have a 3-year-old in
Mm.
school for the first time this fall. It took her 6 school days to get her first like in school cold, but Mandy and I seem to have dodged it. So
Nice. That
and
that is a
she's
win. That
pulling
is a
through,
win because
and we
yeah.
didn't even miss a school day because
Wow.
she developed like runny nose on Friday afternoon, and then
Good
by
timing.
Monday, so. Hey, I'm
Hey,
sure there'll be plenty more of that
I
as
mean,
this fall
I
moves
mean,
along.
I don't have a kid, but I know that their schools are, germ amusement
Oh,
parks. They just have a field day over there. So
yeah, can't avoid it. So yeah, best of luck to Woj wherever he goes. 55 years old,
yeah,
stepping away,
good for
and
him.
you were saying you've heard like no health problems, no
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's just he's just getting away from the grind and gonna kind of enjoy life. So good for Woj, and good luck. And let's transition back to football and the NFL. Let's start with news and notes, Zach, which is basically the injury report at this point.
Yeah.
C.J. Mosley, D.J. Reed, Michael Carter II. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Robert Saleh said yesterday basically that all three are going to be 50-50 for Thursday night. If I was predicting who plays against the Patriots, I would say Michael Carter the second plays. I think it's going to be a lingering thing all year with him. That's just something to be said, and it's unfortunate. But I think he's going to be. It's pretty much going to be week to week all season. It feels like. DJ Reed feels like is trending towards playing, but it is a short week, so we'll see. And CJ Mosley, I would guess, does not play. So those would be the trio. And I don't know if you want to get into like, what that means and stuff yet, or you want to save that for later. But
Yeah, no.
yeah,
Let's cover that part of it right now. As
yeah,
far,
yeah,
I mean, not having DJ Reed and Michael Carter, right? If there's a week for those guys to be banged up,
yeah.
and
Seriously,
uh, the Patriot, I did have this later, but the Patriots receiving core
brutal. Yeah.
is brutal. I mean, Polk is a rookie. They have high hopes for him, but 2 catches last week. 2 of the 3 catches by the entire receiving core last week. So, um, if you're going to get burned through the air with the Patriots, it's going to come from the tight ends and the backs. Now, that's something the Jets have historically struggled with, but
Yeah.
the receiving core is not going to get them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's like that close, like I think you should lean towards being hesitant. I mean, the Jets need a win, and the Patriots are better than I think people thought so far. At least they've been very competitive. Um, but yeah, I'd lean towards if you need to give Michael Carter the second a week to rest, like this would probably be it. Like DJ Reed did get his rest week last week, so maybe he'd be good to go. Mosley, it's interesting. He went out and the defense started. I don't think it's necessarily because he went out, but Jamie Sherwood held his own really, really well last week. They're very high on Sherwood's like IQ and his ability. He'll have the dot on his helmet when he's out. It won't go to Quincy. It'll go to him at the mic. And he has a real chance to kind of like he's in a contract year. CJ Mosley's winding down his career. Like he has a real chance, however long CJ's out, to like really prove that he can be a starting linebacker in the league. He seems like he might be another good example of this coaching staff taking their time and developing a young player. When he was drafted, he was a safety. They transitioned him to linebacker. they've slowly given him more and more playing time. And he had a really good summer in training camp. He was one of the only guys to intercept Aaron Rodgers. And, I think this will be a very good test for him, going against a not great Patriots team on offense, at least. Jacoby Brissett's a veteran, and he's smart, and he's given the Jets some trouble in the past, actually. But, I think Sherwood would be someone I really have my eye on this week if he winds up starting, because I'm really interested to see if last week was, they didn't expect him and he played well, or if he actually has some juice and can be like a starting caliber guy.
Sometimes it's the best situation when you just get thrown in there, right, without actually thinking. Now he has a whole week to kind of prepare, or not a whole week, a short week to get ready for this Thursday night game. All right, obviously the biggest injury coming out of the win over Tennessee was Jermaine Johnson. Yeah. He confirmed while we were recording on Monday that it was, in fact, the torn Achilles. He'll be out for the year. Beyond reaching an agreement with Haason Reddick, and we'll get a little more into that in a minute, what are some of the other moves here that the Jets could make? Who's available? Have you heard anything about them reaching out to anyone?
Yeah, on the short week, they weren't going to bring anybody in, I don't think, anyway, unless they do it like after we have this podcast today. But I haven't heard anything about tryouts or workouts yet. So, Haason is the number one, but I just don't see that resolving itself, at least not this week. And I'd be surprised if it did in general. But who knows? The whole thing has always been he could just show up one day and nobody would know about it. Like, he's not talking to anybody. His people are, but he's not. So, I'm still skeptical on that. He's the best one out there if you're just looking at like their options. Short of him, the guys they have in the roster, they're going to start Will McDonald and Michael Clemens. The backups are going to be Tack McKinley, Eric Watts, and Braden McGregor, and that is not to really scare anybody. Jalen Holmes will probably get called up as well. But yeah, free agents, there are a couple intriguing ones. Justin Houston's a veteran who he is a little old. He didn't really do much last year, but the years before that, he was getting like 8 sacks a year, even, as an older player. I think he's like 37 or something like that now. He'd have to be a situational pass rusher. I think the most intriguing one to me, and I've seen his name floated by a few people, so I'm not going to take credit, but Yannick Ngakoue. He's bounced around the league the last few years, but he's pretty consistently a good pass rusher. He's still, I think, only like 29, 30, 31. I think he's still good enough to contribute in a Jets rotation, which they emphasize is still important even after losing Jermaine. So he's kind of the guy I have my eye on. I don't know what kind of money he's looking for, but he's intriguing to me. If you want to go down the former Jet path, you have Henry Anderson's a free agent. Not that exciting. Shaq Lawson, and then Carl Lawson's on the Cowboys practice squad. I don't know. I mean, the fact that he didn't get on an active roster means he probably is not the Carl Lawson of old, but you know what you're getting with him at least, and he was really good 2 years ago. So those are kind of options. Teams usually aren't looking to get rid of pass rushers or defensive ends, so I can't imagine there's a lot of options on the trade market. But there are some. Yannick Ngakoue and Haason Reddick would be the two best options, and I don't know if they're going to get either of them. But the fact that Ngakoue is still available, I would think he wouldn't cost too much.
Yeah, anybody that's available at this point.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously Haason Reddick still there, could show up as you just said. Braelon is down in Philadelphia playing for the Eagles. This wasn't a trade, but since it all worked out the way it did, it almost felt like a trade, right? Where the Jets trade for Reddick and it opens the door and the Eagles sign Huff. It hasn't gone well for Braelon in Philadelphia so far. First game of the season, he played 45% of the defensive snaps. Week 2, 52% of the defensive snaps. Zach, no sacks, 1 assisted tackle. That's it from a guy that I think the Eagles had to imagine coming in was, okay, this is a guy who's been super efficient in limited action. We're going to bring him down here. We're going to give him an opportunity to play even more and I guess become a star for, and not only has he not played as much as I think we would have expected, but the efficiency isn't there that made him like the great pass rusher that he was with the Jets.
Yeah, it was, typing Bryce Huff's name into the Twitter search bar on Monday night was a journey. Like Eagles fans, they're like Jets fans, but even like to a more extreme degree because like they've had the success that the Jets fans desire, and the Eagles fans like want it so badly again that anything that goes wrong, they go absolutely insane. So Bryce Huff is like public enemy number 1, 2, or 3 in that town right now. Probably not 1. They're pretty angry at Sirianni, Vic Fangio. Jalen Hurts for that interception. There's some people ahead of him probably, but the Eagles handed Bryce Huff a lot of money. He's done nothing in 2 weeks, and there's a lot of clips out there of him getting blown up pass rushing and stuff. So it's not great. I don't think the obituary is not written yet. Like, it's 2 games. He's adjusting to a new environment, new defense. I don't know that Vic Fangio's done a great job scheming so far, and their defensive line in general has not been very good. Like, Bryce Huff's getting paid like somebody who needs to be able to create on his own. But the reality is he had a lot of help with the Jets. You had Quinn Williams eating up blocks. You had Jermaine Johnson last year. You had Carl Lawson a couple years ago, and he was healthy. The defensive line was winning their battles, and that allowed Bryce to go one-on-one and, really just use his get off and get pressures. Like, he obviously isn't performing up to par, but he has talent, and you hope he figures it out, because he's a guy that, Jets fans like. I really liked personally. He's a good guy. But it is just, it's kind of funny. I don't know if funny is the right word, but just the fact that they swapped these 2 guys and neither team is happy with what they've gotten from them, I would say. One of them is, they both have, you could say, have gotten nothing, but at least one of the players has shown up. But that's why Eagles fans, I've seen a lot of Eagles fans calling for the Eagles to go and trade back for Hassan Reddick, which, talk about unprecedented. Like, something like that happening. Like, the guy got traded away from the team because they wouldn't pay him. They get desperate. They trade back for him after he never played for the other team. Like,
who says no at this point?
What would he even guard? Like, would they just get the pick back that they gave up before?
I guess the Eagles say no because they don't want to pay him either.
Yeah, exactly. That's the complicated part. But he is down in South Jersey already, though, so it'd be easy for him to show up to the facility. But it is kind of fascinating, though, because I think the conversation, I think we even had it on when we were still on Can't Wait, is like everybody's going to be comparing these 2 guys alongside each other this year. And the comparison is they kind of are even. And you could argue Bryce has been worse because he's played poorly, whereas Hassan just hasn't shown up at all. So you don't know what you're going to get from him. So it's turning into one of the weirder things. Like, the fact that they swapped in the first place was very fascinating. Like, I didn't see that coming at all. And then now seeing it play out the way it has, it's very, very weird. Yeah.
Sometimes when you have a player who's happy in a place and the team likes him and it seems like a really good fit, people should lean into that instead of obviously good for Huff getting paid, right? Like, good for him. The Jets, you could say, dropped the ball, right, and not signing him earlier. They let him get to free agency, and good for Bryce Huff to get out there and get his money. Absolutely. But in this moment, and as you said, this story is far from being fully written. Like, you wonder if Bryce Huff would be happier back here with the Jets. And I don't think Hassan Reddick would be happy anywhere right now without a new contract. So that doesn't really matter. But as far as the Jets go, I'm sure they'd rather have a Bryce Huff playing right now than Hassan Reddick not even practicing. So it's an unfortunate spot for everybody. But that gets us to the game. The Patriots. Last year, these games were not good football games. The Jets lost the first game with the Patriots 15-10, and then they won, obviously, the final week of the season 17-3. I hope that this one is maybe not more exciting, because ideally it's the Jets winning easily, but more than 25 total points would be nice to see. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. He returns to MetLife Stadium for a real football game for the first time since obviously the Monday night game where he tore the Achilles and missed the rest of the season. I remember you last year, Zach, saying that the atmosphere at MetLife before that Monday night football game was as good an atmosphere as any game you had ever covered. So we're prime time again. Thursday's a little different than Monday, although in a lot of ways fans can start their weekend early. So there's actually more reason to be in a celebratory mood. What do you expect the atmosphere to be like tomorrow night?
I don't think it'll be as good as the Monday game. I think Thursdays are always kind of a weird one, but it's going to be great. Like, I expect it to be very loud. The cheers when Aaron Rodgers comes out of the tunnel. I think we talked about this on our 4 Downs pod the other day. The fact that they won that game in week 2 is going to change the tone quite a bit, because if they had lost that and they come out sluggish again in the beginning, you might have heard some boos. Like, Giants fans are booing the Giants in week 1, so it's not that level of bad. But the expectations are high, and so if they'd been 0-2 and they go into that game, it would have been different. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a great crowd, and you hope that they come out firing, unlike the last couple weeks, especially because the defense has a lot of questions right now. And if the offense is on the field first or not, whatever, like go out and score that first drive. Like make something happen. Like don't do this run pass. Don't do the boring stuff. Take some shots. And I know Rodgers has been hesitant at the start of games a little bit. You hope he's getting a little more comfortable. Get the ball to Garrett Wilson, throw it down the field to Mike Williams, get Braelon Allen on the move, like whatever you got to do. Like really like feed off that crowd and get them as loud as ever, because if they score on the first drive, it's going to get loud. And I don't think the Patriots are – this isn't the Patriots of old. They're not going to be able to handle it as well, I don't think. So the Jets getting off to a fast – if the Jets get off to a fast start, I think they could wind up like just absolutely, having an amazing game and blowing the Patriots out. But in all likelihood, it probably won't look like that. I think it'll probably be more competitive than the line indicates. But yeah, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be great to be back. It's weird. I don't know if I've ever had a season that I've covered where I didn't get to my first home game until week 3, which is pretty unique. And then they're home again the week after, which is good. Then we go to London, very far from MetLife. But yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. Primetime games are always fun at home. I've covered teams in the past where I covered primetime games and they were like all on the road, and that's just not fun at all because of the travel and because you don't have the home crowd there either. So because the Jets have something to play for, it should be a really, really fun crowd.
You mentioned getting off to a fast start, and Rodgers talked about that this week. He talked about, a win's a win, basically, but then got into the slow starts being a real thing. Here you go.
It doesn't really matter how close we are. What matters is what we did on the field. How close we are is great for coaches because they can coach up the whole thing. But, it'd be a boondoggle to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. So, we got to change a couple things. We got to be a little sharper. Just, we got to start faster. We've been, starting really slow the first 2 weeks. So we got to start faster, put something together in the first 15, and give our defense a chance to play with the lead.
Why do you think that is, the slow starts?
I don't know. The road environment is loud. The execution was close. We dropped a pass on third down the first one, and didn't convert. First, second down very well, and couldn't convert third down in week 2. So, we just got to figure out what we got to do in the first 15 to get going, and execute a little bit early so we can. I feel like once we get a first down, we've been pretty good, but we've had too many, 3 and outs so far.
Aaron Rodgers' word of the week, boondoggle, this week. Last week it was when he was talking about dancing, and he dropped a word. You never know where he's going to go as far as the wording goes.
Yeah.
But, he didn't say – he said it's a real thing. Like, there is concern that they need to start faster, but he also seems to think it's pretty confident it's going to happen.
One thing I really appreciate about him is that, and I don't blame Robert Saleh for doing coach speak and stuff like that, but like Rodgers, like he just does not BS. He's just like honest. Like, like if you ask Robert Saleh the same thing about the slow starts, he'd say he's not worried. He'd say that we're close. That was the thing. The word last year for so many weeks was that we're close, and they never were close. And Rodgers is like, sure we're close, but like me saying that doesn't mean anything. We have to actually like go out there and accomplish something and he acknowledged that the slow starts have been discouraging and all that stuff. Not discouraging, I would say that's not a word he would use, but that's my big, this offense, I think, it's funny. It felt like, he kind of alluded to this, and Robert Saleh has to, it felt the last 2 weeks like they were still like not quite fully there, but they still scored 3 touchdowns offensively in back-to-back weeks, which they didn't do all of last season. So I think that just says like what this team is capable of, because they did that and it still felt like they left a lot on the table. There was the beginning drives where they had 15 yards over the first 3 drives. Rodgers holding onto the ball a little too long some of the time. The Allen Lazard drop in the first drive. You have, I think Braelon Allen had a drop later in the game. Like there's a lot of mistakes they're still making. The offensive line has been really, really good. And that's why I think the offensive line being so good, even more than Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback, frankly, having the offensive line be that good and giving you that much time, like that's my excitement for this offense. Like I still have some questions about the receivers outside of Garrett Wilson at the moment, because Mike Williams had a great catch, but he played like 35 snaps and that was the only catch he had. Lazard is, he's fine, but that deep ball, he was just not fast enough to get to it. Xavier Gipson's been invisible. Malachi Corley hasn't really done anything. But Braelon Allen and Breece Hall, great weapons in the passing game. Garrett Wilson, great. Get Tyler Conklin more involved. You have a great little foursome right there. And Mike Williams getting more healthy. So I just want to see some more explosiveness and more shots and more risks and less conservative play calling at the beginning of games. Like the scripted stuff, this has been a problem as long as Saul has been the coach, dating back to LaFleur. The scripted stuff, they come out and they just it's very just bland and boring and easy to figure out what the other team's going to do. So I really have my eye on the beginning of these games because as they start playing against good teams, they can't get off to slow starts every week. It's just not going to work. And last week, they would have went down 14-0 if not for a bad Will Levis play. Like that should be reminded. And then they would have been playing from behind all game and they would have had to throw it all game and they probably wouldn't have run it as much. And the run establishes the pass in this offense. So, I start off faster. That's the biggest note for this week.
You mentioned Corley, and obviously the hope is this guy becomes an electric weapon, part of this offense. Didn't show it that much in the preseason.
Yeah.
Where is kind of at this point through 2 weeks where we haven't really seen him much? Is there a path for him in this rookie season getting to that playing time where he can be a contributor, or do you feel like at this point maybe rookie season is a wash for Corley and he needs an off season to continue to develop before next year?
Yeah, I think there's still a chance they develop some sort of role for him. I think they went into the first 2 weeks with the idea that they would manufacture some touches for him, like out of the backfield, whatever it is, and then the way the games were going and the fact that they didn't really have many plays in week 1 and they had more plays in week 2, but still probably not enough to get him involved. But yeah, he brings a different kind of dynamic sort of skill set where he could kind of complement Breece and Braelon Allen even more than the receivers. So I think he'll have a role at some point. You'd like a guy that you picked in the 3rd round that you hyped up as much as they did to make more of an impact early, but I'm not ready to say he won't contribute yet. I was concerned about how little he showed in the preseason. That was a little concerning to me. So I think there's maybe more of a little developmental curve than I expected. So maybe it's not until later in the season you're really like, okay, Malachi Corley is a weapon in this offense. But I think the fact that Xavier Gipson has been kind of invisible makes it more likely that Corley eventually takes over there. I've been surprised with that because I thought Gipson looked really good in the preseason. But, for whatever reason, either he's not getting open or he doesn't have the chemistry with Rodgers like I thought or whatever it is. He just hasn't really made an impact.
All right, we saw Braelon Allen take a big step, obviously, last week, scoring the touchdowns, making explosive plays, playing together with Breece Hall. We talked all about that in 4 quarters on Monday. So what does that mean for Allen moving forward? I'll set it up with this. You talked to him yesterday, and he spoke about kind of taking advantage of the moment and the opportunity that he got on Sunday.
It was just showed that I've kind of earned the trust of my coaches and my teammates, just trying to do my best with whatever opportunities that I get. So regardless of what moment it is in the game, just focusing on doing my job, just performing.
4.63 yards per attempt, 5th in the NFL for Braelon Allen. Breece Hall, 3.77 yards per attempt. That's 10th in the NFL. Good spot to be with 2 of the top 10 players in the NFL. They're going to go against a Patriots defense that has been very good against the run thus far this season as well. They've been dominant. That's where the strength of this team is the defense, but particularly against the run, it's been really strong so far this season. So that's going to be a key matchup, I think. You have Allen and Hall against this Patriots defense. Zach, I know you stepped away, but I was just talking about the matchup of Allen and Hall and what they've done running the football last week against really the strength of this Patriots defense.
Yeah, I think the emergence of Hall really just opens up a lot of things for this offense. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. I just ran all the way upstairs to get my computer charger. I'm a mess. But yeah, the Braelon Allen factor here, I didn't expect him to be a factor this early in the season. I thought it was going to be more later. But yeah, this is this is going to be the way they beat the Patriots. I think if they come out and get an early lead, like I think they should, and maybe they will, you just grind it out with him and Breece Hall. You split their carries a little bit. Breece still gets more touches, but, you put them out on the field at the same time. Like I've just been so impressed with Braelon Allen. I think he's a stud. I think he's going to be a star running back in this league. And yeah, I think that's the way you beat the Patriots. You grind them down. You work the clock. They haven't really done that yet on offense. I'd like to see them do that. This would be a good week to do that. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see how much his role increases. Like in my head, I envision him getting like 5 to 10 touches a game. So I'm curious if they keep going with that.
Yeah, and how many plays is he out there too? If they're going to play them together a little bit, does that just increase things where he's on the field more? Right. I'll let you catch your breath a little. You need some water?
Yeah. I'm fine. I just need to breathe for a second.
So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. The other thing, when you look at the Jets offense against this Patriots defense, is obviously we're still waiting, I think, for like the Garrett Wilson blow up game, right? Like he's made plays, he's had his moments, but we're always anticipating this. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is here now. Garrett Wilson is going to he's going to have this 150-yard, 2-touchdown football game. This week, an extra little challenge for Wilson in Christian Gonzalez on the other side of the field. Gonzalez, for those who don't understand, was a top draft pick a year ago, looked phenomenal early in the season-ending injury, missed the rest of it for the Patriots. Seems to be right back where he left off as far as being a shutdown corner.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers actually talked about him on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. I guess he was at the same rehab facility that Aaron Rodgers is at. He raved about him. He thinks he's a stud. And he's a legit shutdown corner. I think he was on his way to being a really, really good rookie like Sauce Gardner last year before he got hurt. His breakout game, and I don't think it's been his fault by any stretch because I think they've had some trouble getting the ball. L'Jarius Sneed was following him last week, but that's going to be a reoccurring thing. There's going to be a lot of top corners he goes against that are going to follow him, and they need to get him the ball more. Rodgers even said after week 1 he had 11 targets that week, and he's like, it didn't feel like enough. And so, their best drives have included plays from Garrett Wilson. He had a couple really nice plays last week, but ultimately it didn't seem like it was a big part of, their offensive success generally because that was all Braelon and Breece. But once you get Garrett going, like that's when this offense can really explode. And this would be, again, this is a good week to really get him going. I think early, you just hit him early and often, really establish that passing game, open up some holes for Breece and Braelon in the run where they can't stack the box. And it all starts there because the other receivers don't really scare anyone yet, and Garrett does. And so get him the ball however you got to do it. Like, he's a guy that's going to make plays after the catch. He had a couple nice after the catch plays last week, but he has, I expected a breakout game already by now, frankly. So, 10 catches, 100 yards, get him a touchdown. Like, let's make it happen this week.
Do you think Gonzalez roams with Garrett, or do you think he stays on one side?
I don't have a good answer, but I would think he would because, let's see, their other corner is, I have it right here. They have Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones. He's not bad, but I would think they would travel. I don't know if that's what the Patriots do in their defense. I frankly haven't watched enough of them the first 2 weeks, but if I had to guess, I would say Christian Gonzalez does stick with Garrett for a lot of the game.
All right, one other key matchup. That's one key matchup I think that all eyes will be on is Garrett versus Christian Gonzalez. Another one, more abstract, is you have Aaron Rodgers, 40-year-old Hall of Fame player, quarterback, and you have the head coach on the other team, it's Gerard Mayo, first year, obviously, taking over for a legend. Is he younger than Aaron Rodgers? Checking real quick. I don't think so. Oh, yes, he is actually younger than Aaron Rodgers, 38 years old. So you have a team in the Patriots that the defense has always, since Belichick got there, been tough on quarterbacks. Obviously, a guy like Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be bothered by a lot of the little tricks that they would have done, but Mayo now takes over. So how do you think this plays out with Mayo as the head coach of the Patriots versus Rodgers?
Yeah, so Aaron has talked this week about how he goes against a lot of teams now where the coach is somebody he played against or somebody he played with. And so it kind of is fascinating that it's going to keep happening like this. But yeah, I think that's going to be the big battle this week. It's going to be him against Jerome Mayo's defense. It's not Bill Belichick, but they do run a similar defense as to when Bill was there. And so I'm, Gerard's probably going to try and throw some things at him. I think Gerard played against him, and, he kind of knows how Aaron operates as well as maybe any of these other opposing coaches. So, if we're looking at matchups, the Gerard versus Aaron Rodgers one is one that's pretty fascinating to me.
All right. I don't know if we have anybody still watching us. Anything else to check in about heading into this Patriots-Jets game and before we watch on Thursday?
Yeah, I think I'm very curious to see how Will McDonald does as a full-time player now. He's going to be going against a young left tackle that the Patriots have. I think his name is Vidarian Lowe. And they need Will McDonald to play like he did last week. And he needs to, make an impact in the running game. He needs to make an impact as a pass rusher. And this is the guy they drafted in the first round last year. He needs to live up to that potential because they don't have anyone else. Like, this is who they have. They have to go into the game with him and Michael Clemens as their starters. Maybe one of those undrafted rookies can emerge, but Will McDonald is kind of the X factor for this defense now. That's who I really have my eye on. Outside of Jamie and Sherwood, who we talked about earlier, but I'm just really fascinated to see how Will McDonald looks.
All right, man. I think we should call this before we lose you again. But we will be back on Friday this week. Actually, 3 episodes this week because of the Thursday night game. We'll be back with a 4 Downs episode on Monday. Thanks for all your support. We mentioned it on Monday that we are over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Let's keep that number going up. Slam that that thumbs up sign here on YouTube as well. Support Badlands. And I am going to get a video up this week for anybody that's still struggling to get the audio feed of this show into Spotify or Apple. We're going to continue to get that. There's a step. We'll get it on there. I know people keep commenting how to do this, and we haven't been able to actually put that clear way to do it out there yet. So we'll do that. Zach, no travel this week. Good for you. Enjoy MetLife and all the atmosphere on Thursday.
Yes, let's do it.